Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. My name is Simon Sang. I'm a student of the MIT xPro Professional Cybersecurity Certificate Program, March 2022. Today, I'm happy to present my Capstone project, Equifax Data Bridge 2017 case studies. Okay, let's get on that. So the background information is in the high level, if everyone search the internet, so the information we will get is they will say, well, one of the system administrator, they ignore and forgot to update the web server with one of the patch for the Apache struct vulnerabilities. Which is CVE 2017-5638 for months. And then because of that, the hacker found a way to exploit that vulnerabilities and got into the system. And end up 133 million people, their personal identifiable information, including the name, social security, birthdays, address, in some cases, even the passport number got stolen. Fortunately, the credit report database appears to be untouched in that case. So otherwise, we will be in much more trouble. So, so the case study actually will provide some analysis from the perspective from the defensive and offensive control. So, so we will get into more details on that because actually the whole reason for the data bridge it's not even just one system administrator forgot about to do the job. And it is the root cause is actually it is the organization structure, and they don't have a very good defined policy and control process and lead to all these issues. So how did the attacker infiltrate the Equifax? Well, first, everybody knows actually there's a vulnerabilities caused by this Apache struct, and including the hackers. And the attacker actually they scanned the entire internet and looking for the server that didn't have the patch at that time. And once they identify the server, they start to exploit the vulnerabilities. And in that case, unfortunately, they got into the Equifax, and then once they got in, they moved to some other servers. They got more credentials and username and password, and then they remain hidden while over 76 days period of time, and then they gradually steal the information in a small increment. And according to the report, I think 51 database were involved in that incident. So, and this is the timeline for the data bridge. I put out from March 2017 to July. Because honestly, after the July, there are much more events. But I think basically July 29 to 30 is the one Equifax they detect. They just realized they got hacked on their system. So on March 8th, actually, even the Department of Homeland Security they already identified, the seriousness of these vulnerabilities, and they also inform Equifax. And the next day, Equifax actually internally they share this information to the system administrator, the IT team. And unfortunately, somehow no action being taken. And then on the March 10th, and the attacker actually is already gotten into the system. It only took three days because they scanned the entire internet. They didn't wait, and then they identified that Equifax is vulnerable, and then they just got in. So, and then the worst part is actually Equifax actually they have the vulnerability scanner, and somehow even their scanner didn't come up with any server. They didn't identify any server with that vulnerabilities. And then for after a couple months, more advanced attacker got into the system, and then they start to collect the PII, the personal identifiable information. And then in July 29th and 30th, the security team from the Equifax, finally they identified there's some network traffic coming from China, and somehow they knew that they do not do any business with China. So that's why they realized there's a hack right there, and then everything just go downhill, start from there. So. And going back to my very first slide in the presentation, so I mentioned is if you search the internet, majority of the search come back is yes, the administrator and the IT or maybe forgot to patch the system, and then end up make the system become vulnerable. But I think the root cause actually for the hack, it is really due to the IT organizations in the Equifax, based on several studies that how they point out this. If you look at the structure right here, the IT department and the security, actually, they are two separate departments. The security officer actually report to the chief legal officer, and that he does not have too much IT background. And then on the other hand, and the CIO and another senior VP and then another CIO for the global platform, they are in charge on the IT. And the study based on they all show that is from the organization structure, they do not have a very good communication between two departments, the IT and the security. That contribute to one of the problems is they do not have a very clear policy and control define how to do the patch management. And somehow in this case, it's they just the whole vulnerabilities patch just fell through the crack. And somehow they said the whole patch in the company basically it's just an honor system. There's no check and balance. Who is going to do what, when is he going to do it, and then this is the security or the IT. They divide the work in the way is security is just they cannot change the configuration. They just go there to change the appliance, change the signature, and the IT is able to change the infrastructure of the system, and the communication is just like as need or reactive. They do not have a very good communication between two sides. And if, based on my understanding is this is one of the major root cause causing the issues of the Equifax data breach. So one of them, the organization failure. So. And there's another one is when I start taking this class, I just realized how important we have to follow the NIST cybersecurity framework. And the first one it is identify. We really have to doing the asset management. We have to do the inventory. We have to understand the entire system, how many software, hardware we're running in the system. And if we don't know what we have, and then we do not know how to protect and what we need to protect from. And this is exactly what happened in Equifax. In somehow, and they do not understand or they did not know, their automated consumer information called ACIS running on the Apache struct, and they have no idea. And if they don't know, their software, their one of their really core system is running with that vulnerable software at that time, and they do not know how to protect, or they do not know they need to protect it. So I think this is the first thing that they fail, and this is one of the another reason, the organization structure failed to define the policy and the control procedure, make sure the organization really follow the cybersecurity framework. And the first thing is they got to have the inventory on all the software, what they're running. And in this case, they don't. They did not have that. So, and that's why they're causing that data breach too. So, and another thing is the data governance failure. So, in somehow during the investigation, they identify Equifax actually. They store the username and credential in an unencrypted format in the database. That's how the attacker can easily gain more access to other system and then jump laterally. So and then another even from the House of Congressional Report and the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, they also point out yes. Equifax in their system, they do not apply the defense in depth principle to segregate the system. So once that make it easier for the attacker. Once they got into the system, they can just easily jump to another system. If they really implement that segregation between the different network, it will make it a bit more difficult for the attacker to jump around. So. And then there's some other recommendation point out by the investigator is like, for example, some critical administrator role or configuration files should not be changed when people doing remote access. So this is really in the report. So and those critical functions they believe they need to do it on premises, not instead of remotely. But unfortunately, I think in the reality, even right now, after the COVID, a lot of people just work from home. So, but this is something we really have to think about. That should we, some critical tasks we should really just do it on premises. So, but in reality, there will be a lot of pushback from the administrator. I think sometimes. So, but it's down to the management and the leadership, how they set up the policy and control. So, okay, next, yes, Equifax also, they show a failure in the detect category in the cybersecurity framework in the detection. So, and during that time, so first they failed to identify the inventory, what software and hardware they're running. And then the second one is the detection. During that time, actually, they already have the intrusions detections, and there's a signature for that vulnerabilities. In somehow the Equifax, the security team, there's a delay to apply that signature. And if you go back to the very second slide, you can see that if the Equifax, they immediately able to apply that signature in the intrusion detection or protection device, they may be able to stop the attacker get into the system. But in somehow they apply that signature after the attacker got into the system, and it's only just a few days of a period of time. So, and that's why when we have the policy and or security policy or the playbook, we got to have a good system. And whenever there's some critical vulnerabilities, the team cannot wait. They really have to act very quickly. So, especially for those systems, they connect to the internet. So, going back to this slide, and they, in addition to that intrusion detections signature, there's a delay to apply that. They also suppose they have a very good appliance called SSL visibilities appliance, and that is monitor all the encrypted network traffics. But unfortunately, all those appliances actually they have an expired SSL certificate, and there's a delay, and the team there's a gap to update those expired certificates. And actually, that led the attacker spend another couple of months undetect and collect the information. And how the Equifax actually detect that intrusion is right after they update the expired SSL certificate, and all of a sudden they identify the traffic coming from China, and that's the moment they realize they got hacked, because they do not do business with China and the credit agency, and that is a very good indicator. There's an intrusion right there. So. And during my study, when I went through all the literature, I did not find Equifax spend a lot of priorities on the offensive cybersecurity protection, like, for example, like the penetration testing, the red teaming, the ethical hacking. If they really apply all this security control, they should be able to identify one of the legacy system they are vulnerable, because looks like the system is a legacy system, and it's a very difficult system to maintain and monitor, and then they're relying on some middleware to connect and talk to that. So if the Equifax, they really apply that play offensive on and try to understand the system and validate the control they put in is really working. Like, for example, if they do the pen test, they will identify the SSL actually is not working. I mean, the SSL visibility appliance failed to detect any encrypted traffic or network traffic from between the outside world. So, and that's why, when we're doing the offensive cybersecurity, it's not just try to see the weakness, and actually it is the validation to validate, whether the control we put in place is really working or not, and whether it's pretty size. So, well, the steps should be done. First, from the defensive control point of view, is definitely the Equifax need to establish some clear policy and control on their patch management. They really need to fix the vulnerabilities as soon as they arise. They need to have a baseline control. They really know what they have, and in order to understand what to control. So they really need to spend a lot of resources on their security monitoring and detection system. Like, for example, their vulnerability scanner could not identify the ACIS, the legacy system, is vulnerable and is having that Apache struck. If they set up correctly, actually, they should be able to identify they are running Apache, and then that will show up on the executive summary. So, for that critical vulnerabilities, actually. So, and apparently, they do not have a very good incident response planning. So, the incident response planning is not just how to do it when the attack happens. They really need to have a plan, and then try to understand how to, if there's a attack happen, how to mitigate the attack. So, and apparently, we mentioned that the asset that they need to have a process to handle and update those expired SSL certificate. Actually, it's happened across the industry. And the file integrity management, the FIM, actually is one major thing I think recommended by the investigator. And even the ACIS is a legacy system, but they should have, if they have the FIM, they can detect any change in the configuration of the system, and then they will alert the security personnel for that. So, and definitely, and we need to do the defense in depth. And so I got a typo there, sorry. So, and then the offensive control, and previous slide we talk about that. But definitely for the security holes, we need to use offensive control to find it, and then we plug them. So, and then lesson learned from others. So finally, In this class, actually, I also remember one of the quiz has asked about this, and actually really still stuck in my mind is for the attacker, they only need to do once. They need to get an unauthorized access just one time, and then they already got in. So, but for the defense, we have to spend all the effort to protect the system. But that's why it is a very tough job for the security professional to protect the system, and the attacker is always playing offense, and then they only did it one time, and if they got in successfully, and they got it. So and then I know there's a lot of company actually outside, they spend a lot of resources on the security. Everybody keep talking about security and security, but I think after taking this class and also finish up this project, so make me realize is no matter how much money, how much technology we put into the security and IT, if we do not have a good policy and control put in place, and people they do not have a good organization structure and how to communicate and then know when to respond and how to respond, all those money will be wasted actually. So you got some fancy, really shiny tools, but if you don't know how to protect your system, you do not have a good roadmap or policy and control, it all doesn't matter. So yeah, so and this is all I think we did in this class. Actually, I believe that we touch on a lot of this area. So and also one last thing is I do not know whether it is true or not. So but before that, back in the before this happened, Equifax actually they have a security expert. So and in the company, and they really advocate and then pushing the company to do a lot of a security drill. This is like an offensive cybersecurity, and then prepare the team for that. But he left, and then and several other cybersecurity people also follow him to leave the company. So and then up there we organize the structure of the security team, and the chief security officer actually report to the legal officer. So and I think that could be something to do with that. If you don't have the right security professional and really try to set up the security posture for the company and prepare the company for an attack, like set up a lot of offensive cybersecurity control in place, and that and when bad thing happen, and the defensive, the blue team doesn't know how to respond. So and so that's why we have to really have to strike in a balance, and both red team and the blue team, they all need to work together and cannot be just defense, spending a lot of money into defense. We really have to, but people sometimes they don't like to do offensive control because the management maybe sometimes they don't like to show the bad things. Nobody like to tell people, hey, I got a weakness in the system. So that's a human nature. So but we have to overcome that. So okay, yes, thank you very much. That concludes my presentations, and I'm very happy. So thank you so much. I have learned a lot in this class. So thank you. Bye.